Hello everyone. So what we will do is, just like I've shared my polity and environment notes and I'm sharing that, I'm in the process, and I will also share my SNT notes. And what is SNT? What does SNT means? SNT means science and tech. SNT means science and tech. So again, out of all the topics which UPSC has prescribed, science and tech, if you see it, it's very vague in nature. Why am I saying the word vague? Why I'm using the word vague? Because there's no definition as such what they can ask in science and tech. Science and tech is not a small domain, dude. Science and tech is science and tech, right? It covers everything from universe, space to space research program to small, minute things in life regarding physics, chemistry, and biology to the biggest of the stuff, right? So that's why it becomes a little tricky. So what is the best way to follow science and tech? To do PYQs. Do PYQs. And what is PYQs? Previous year questions. So what we will do in this particular, today's lecture, we'll try to cover the questions which has been asked by UPSC in 2015. So let's start. So fuel cell was asked by UPSC in 2015. What is fuel cell? So the fuel of fuel cell is H2 plus O2, hydrogen plus oxygen. That is the input which you will give in the fuel cell. And the output will be water and heat. Heat is the byproduct, water and heat are the byproducts. So heat will be generated, that's why it is a fuel cell. And now they will also give you a question that produces an alternating current or direct current or what? It produces direct current. And what is a direct current? In direct current, the flow of electron is continuous, it's fixed. But in alternating current, that is AC, the flow of electron changes or reverses. The direction of flow of electron reverses after a constant period, right? So direction of flow of electron reverses after a constant period, but that does not happen in AC, right? Reverses after a constant period. So again, what happens in the case of fuel cell? It produces direct current and it can be used to power small devices like laptop computers. It cannot be used to power big devices, right? It can be used to power small devices like laptop computers. Now, if you want to see, if you want to, see how this fuel cell look like, so we can also do that. So first of all, as we have discussed AC and DC, so you can see the difference between AC and DC lies in the direction in which the electron flows. In DC, the electron flows steadily in the single direction, whereas in AC, the electrons keep switching directions. Here you can use electrons with current also synonymously. They are not same exactly or technically, but yes, electrons are used with current. So you can say that current keeps switching direction, sometimes going forwards and then going backward. So that happens in the case of AC, right? And in DC, the electrons flow steadily in a single direction. Now, if you want to see certain images, so you can see that. So this is an alternating current image. The magnitude of current is continuously changing, whereas in the case of direct current, the magnitude is constant. This magnitude is constant, right? Okay, now let's talk about and let's see fuel cell. Just a second. Because what happens now when you see certain diagrams, it remains etched in your memory for a longer period of time, unlike just if you read the theory part only, right? So that's why our focus is to see more, as many diagrams as we can. It helps us in more ways than one. So just a second. So if you see this particular diagram, I don't know whether that is visible or not. So they're showing it that in this case, if it is a fuel cell, hydrogen is in, this hydrogen is in, oxygen is in, and you're getting water out and you're getting heat out. So you're getting heat out, this particular heat out. So the input of a fuel cell is hydrogen and oxygen, and the output will be your heat as well as water. Fine. Now let's move back. Let's not waste time in seeing photos only. Just a second. So yes, apart from this, so fuel cell was asked, and fuel cell was very important question. Everything which has been asked earlier becomes an important question, right? So now, apart from fuel cells, there were different other patterns or the different other questions also which were asked. So we'll try to see that also. So now biotoilets they have asked. So biotoilets I have also discussed in environment session 1. So environment notes for UPSC Prelims session 1. In that also we have discussed biotoilets, and why we have done that? Because see, it's very difficult to generalize certain things. This biotoilets, this can also be kept in environment topic, and this can also be kept in S&T topics. So sometimes the topics blur. There is no basic distinction between them. So that's why I've kept biotoilets in my UPSC notes for environment also. Now, one thing which we need to understand is, as we have already discussed, this is decomposed by anaerobic. Anaerobic means in the absence of oxygen. Aerobic means in the presence of oxygen. So it is decomposed by anaerobic microbial inoculum. So anaerobic microbial, in the absence of oxygen, this whole process of, or this whole mechanism of white biotoilet is carried out. Now the end product is a colorless and odorless CH4, that is methane. Right now, this is very important, and I have discussed in environment session 1 also that this colorless and odorless is important because sometimes they will give you that it gives a pungent smell or something like that. So that is not the case. It is a colorless. The end product of biotoilets is a colorless and odorless CH4. If you travel by Gatiman Express, right? If you travel by Gatiman Express, it has biotoilets, and many other what do you say, trains now have biotoilets. So now this is biotoilets. Now let's talk about IndARC. Now what is IndARC? IndARC, again, all these questions which we are discussing right now, they have already been discussed or they have been asked in UPSC 2015. So IndARC is India's underwater observatory to scientifically study Arctic region. So what is IndARC? IndARC is India's underwater observatory to scientifically study what? Arctic region, and it is actually located in Norway. So if you want to see IndARC, we can see IndARC also. It looks like a big balloon, but that's not exactly what it is. It's an underwater observatory. Just a second. So yes, so and I hope you can see this yellow figure, yellowish figure, which is put in the water, right? So this is IndARC. This is India's underwater observatory, and this is located in Norway, in one of the regions of Norway. So this particular thing, this particular yellow stuff, this is your IndARC. This whole yellowish thing, this is your IndARC. Cool. And see, they are placing it here. If you can see, they are placing it here in the water. So again, let's go back. So you can see there are very dimensions. They can ask anything and everything. So that's why previous year questions helps you a lot here. Now let's talk about India space program. So India space program, again, a question which has been asked in UPSC 2015. It has two major operational system. ISP Indian space program has two major operational system, and this is also important from your mains point of view. In GS3, if you see a topic, so there is a topic in GS3 which talks about awareness in the field of IT, space, computers, robotics, and all those things. So ISP has, Indian Space Program has two major operational system, INSAT and IRS. So Indian National Satellite System, INSAT, which is a geostationary satellite. Now, the major question is, what is the difference between geostationary and geosynchronous satellite, right? So INSAT is we'll just talk about that. So INSAT is a geostationary satellite. Now understand one thing, there are two things. One is called geostationary or geosynchronous. One is called geosynchronous. Other is called geostationary. And these are orbits. So geosynchronous orbit and geostationary orbit. So what is geosynchronous orbit? The orbit whose rotation period is equal to Earth's rotation period. So that is a geosynchronous orbit. So the orbit in geosynchronous orbit period, or the period of their orbiting the Earth, is equal to Earth's rotation period. That is 24 hours. Equal to Earth's rotation period. Now, what is geostationary orbit? And whatever satellites are there in geosynchronous orbit, they are called geosynchronous satellites. Now, what is geostationary orbit? It is a part of geosynchronous orbit. Geostationary orbit is part of geosynchronous orbit. So it's a subset. You can say that one of the subset of geosynchronous orbit is geostationary orbit. It is a part of geosynchronous orbit in which the orbit is exactly over Earth's equator. This whole orbit is exactly over Earth's equator. So that's why it feels like they're always stationary. That's why it feels like they're always stationary, and that's why it is called geostationary orbit. So you can say that all geostationary orbit are geosynchronous orbits, but not vice versa. Not all geosynchronous orbits are geostationary orbit. Now, if you want to see it, what does geosynchronous orbit look like? So we can also do that. Now, see, this was the IndARC thing. Now, let's try to look at geostationary and geosynchronous orbit. So just remember one thing, geosynchronous is a subset of geostationary orbit. Understand this? Geosynchronous period, now see, understand this? Geosynchronous orbit, the orbital period is, or orbital velocity is equal to the Earth's rotational velocity. And in the case of geosynchronous, it is one type of, in the case of geostationary, sorry, it is one type of geosynchronous orbit in which the orbit is exactly over Earth's equator. So see this. If you can, just a second. All these diagrams, you can see this is a geostationary orbit. See here, this is axis of rotation. Geostationary orbit is exactly over Earth's equator, whereas geosynchronous orbit, what is happening? It is geosynchronous orbit can be anywhere. It can even be a geostationary orbit. But in geosynchronous orbit, even geostationary orbit has 24 hours orbiting period. But it will always be above the equator. But geosynchronous orbit can be above the equator and cannot be above the equator. If it is above the equator, it will be a geostationary orbit. If it is not above the equator, it will be a normal geosynchronous orbit. So hope this is clear to you now. And this is a very tricky question also. So we shouldn't be, what do you say, getting these things wrong. Now let's go back. So what they were saying is INSAT is a geostationary satellite which is used for telecommunication purposes, television broadcasting, meteorological services. These are the purposes of INSAT. Now we have seen that there are two major operational systems of Indian space program. Second is IRS, that is Indian remote sensing satellites. So they're used for monitoring and management of natural resources. What are the examples? Locating groundwater resources, mineral exploration, and disaster management support. Now, apart from that, in UPSC 2015, see, there are too many questions on science and tech which were asked in UPSC 2015. So one question was related to IceCube. Now, what happens now? If you search for IceCube, on Google or on internet, what will happen? They will show you something like this. Just a second, you will see, and you will laugh actually. Although the picture which you're going to see or the stuff which you're going to see is very interesting. See, when you will search for IceCube on Google, so you will see this guy, and he is a great guy. He's a great actor. I don't know how many of you have seen that movie where Channing Tatum and all the other guys are there. And in that movie, he's the most funny guy. I have forgotten the name of that movie. If you remember it, do tell me. So this guy, but that is not the IceCube which UPSC has asked. UPSC has asked about this IceCube or this IceCube neutrino observatory. So it is a IceCube is a neutrino observatory and not, do not get confused with this funny guy. Okay, so now let's go back to our slides. So yes, just a second. So yes, so what is IceCube? IceCube is a neutrino detector located at South Pole. It is located at South Pole. So it is a powerful telescope to search for dark matter, which is buried deep in ice, which will lead to unraveling of the mystery of the universe. Now let's talk about nanotechnology. And again, why nanotechnology is important? Because again, it is a specific topic in UPSC GS3 mains. So what is the topic name? The topic is awareness in the field of IoT space, again, which we have talked earlier, robotics, nanotechnology. They have specifically given this word nanotechnology in your GS3 syllabus. So that's why it is very important. And they have also asked the question in UPSC 2015. So they were asking the application part. So it can be used in targeted drug delivery, it can be used in gene therapy, and these are not the only two uses, but these were the two options which were there in the question. So yes, it can be used for targeted drug delivery, it can be used for gene therapy also, and can be used for many other multiple purposes as well. Now, one thing which we have done here is we have talked about geostationary and geosynchronous orbit. Now, if you see, the thing is, I can share this PDF with you. You just have to send me a message. I will share the WhatsApp number in the description. So we have talked about geostationary and geosynchronous orbit now. So even if you see the some subsequent pages of this PDF, you will realize what I have just said. So geostationary synchronous, or what do you say? Geosynchronous satellites are placed in geosynchronous orbit with an orbital period equal to Earth rotation period. We have just discussed it. A special case of geosynchronous satellite is geostationary satellite, which has a geostationary orbit, which is orbit, sorry. Phonetics, man. Phonetics is the way of pronouncing words, and I'm very poor in that. So geostationary orbit. So what is a geostationary orbit? A circular orbit directly above Earth's equator. That's why it always appears stationary, right? Okay, so we'll keep until here only. In the next video, we have done this. So in the next video, we'll talk about West Nile virus and all those stuff. What is the basic concept behind electric fuse? What is asexual reproduction? And believe me, these questions have been asked or can be asked. So these are important. But now we have discussed the questions which were asked in UPSC 2015 today, right? In this particular discussion. So that's it. We'll keep until here only and see you people in the next session. Thank you.